Welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4. The legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal, Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. On this edition of Ralph Reads, we prepare for the third go-around with a master storyteller who I always compare to a Ray Bradbury or Stephen King. Jan 11 and his premiere thriller, Angelites, Body of Persons Empowered. When prompted, present your ticket, lay back, kick it, and let the reading commence. Chapter 12. Gina drove across a two-lane rickety bridge and onto a twisting, deserted road that led to another small town named Colfax City, populated by only 1,000 people. The vicinity was cluttered with ragged homes. Pickup trucks and station wagons crowded both sides of the street. Besides saloon-style dive bars and corner markets, the main source of employment came from 5 warehouses. In spite of their abandoned appearance, they manufacture some of the top commercial products in the country for nationwide distribution. Deep within the confines of this rustic town stood an old withered church that stuck out like a sore thumb. Red symbols and black writings decorated its dry and shriveled walls. Spread out on the patchy grass, besides a roundup of tattered trucks, were 20-somethings laughing it up by the warped front steps and 30-somethings drinking around a burning garbage can in the backyard. Based on the pentagrams drawn on their clothing, these had to be cult members. They acted optimistically and mentally lost at the same time. Their hopes for a better life revolved around someone else's beliefs. No voice of reason could get through their thick skulls. A happy ending seemed to be out of the question. Gina drove through the quiet town at a snail's pace, figuring the best place to keep her polished Jeep out of sight. She drove around the back of a warehouse and checked for a parking lot. Just their luck. The gates were unlocked with 2 cars still inside. In case they needed to make a fast getaway, she parked by the entrance gate. While Veronica kept an eye out, Gina got on her radio and contacted New Mexico State Police. The closest district was in Española, a little less than a 90-minute drive. Hopefully, that'll be enough time for the 2 daring officers to hold off the crazed group. Besides a handgun holstered by her ribs, Veronica loaded shells into her shotgun and was ready for war. Gina packed her utility belt with a Glock 21 and plenty of magazines.
"We'll move behind the warehouses,"
Gina suggested.
"Use the darkness as our cover."
Veronica agreed. The ladies moved stealthily onto the rotted plains and noticed a plethora of vehicles out in the open. With a non-surprised smirk, Gina nodded her head at the cult's sheer stupidity.
"Not the type of girl that says I told you so, but..."
she sighed.
"Not too bright at all,"
said Veronica.
"Why don't they just put up a banner that says, 'Live Sacrifice Tonight'? Beer and pretzels served out back. Dumbasses."
As they crept to the unholy temple, humming and chanting grew louder. Gina hand-signaled that she would check around back. Veronica then rolled around the trees and circled toward the front. Gina spotted a guard standing by the cellar doors, gulping down a bottle of Jack Daniels. She tippy-toed closer for a sneak attack. Snap! A twig snapped from under her boot. Wildly spinning around, the guard spat out his alcohol at the sight of the shimmering badge on Gina's uniform. Before he could yell for help, Gina jabbed him in the throat. After gagging and coughing out phlegm, the guard began to roll his fists and two-step around the sheriff like a bad salsa dancer. "Watch me punch you in the mouth with a kick," he slurred. The guard threw a sloppy karate kick and Gina caught his leg with very little effort. She couldn't help but giggle at watching him hop around like a one-legged kangaroo. The guard got knocked out cold once Gina's left fist collided with his jaw. She dragged his body behind the bushes and raced back to the cellar doors. Slowly, she pulled them open, revealing a pit of darkness at the bottom of the rickety stairs. With Glock in hand, she slowly stepped down. The gloomy cellar was noiseless. She couldn't see anything past her nose. While feeling her way around the room, a terrible memory revisited her mind.
"My God,"
she thought.
"it's just like my nightmare."
Her fear started talking.
"Wait for the state police. They can handle this. There's too many of them. Turn back."
Sounds like a good idea. Wait, what's that? Sounded like rattling chains and whimpering coming from a few feet away. Gina shook away her fears and continued feeling around for another doorway, maybe even a source of light. Minutes of rubbing and touching the walls, she found nothing. Suddenly, she felt a breeze blowing on her right side. Adjusting her eyes to the dark, she could see a narrow opening of light covered by a velvet curtain. Murmuring sounds grew louder as she approached the curtain. Could this be where the ritual will be? Or were they too late? Just thinking about it angered her even more. She then decided,
"If I die tonight, this whole damn cult is coming with me."
Chapter 13. Veronica ducked behind the church's front steps, spying on two members drinking beer on the front lawn. Long black cloaks completely covered their feet, sliding across the dirt as they walked, looking like children dressed in their father's clothing. Expressions of excitement electrified off their faces. Not only hopeful to receive unlimited power, but aroused at hearing the sacrificial lamb would be a teenaged girl.
"Ooh, we get to see some young meat bleed tonight,"
one member gleefully expressed. "Yeah, getting goosebumps just thinking about it," the other member said. "Wonder what they gonna do with the body afterward. Hope she's ripe for the picking." Seeing that the coast was clear, Veronica crept up behind the drunken members, holding the butt end of her rifle forward. Her blood boiled as they joshed about carving an innocent girl like she was a Thanksgiving turkey. She wanted to knock some sense into them, literally.
"Yo, the event should be starting soon. We should get up in there and grab our spots now. Maybe we could get close enough to the stage, you know? Be right there to feel that warm blood splash on our faces."
"Good idea, but how you know it's a sacrifice?"
"I overheard some girls in the bathroom an hour ago. Our master is bringing a special knife and the whole shebang. He wants to make this a monumental event, you know."
"Wait till the boys hear this!"
Psst. Hey.
Veronica hissed. The members looked at each other thinking the same thing. Who said that? A third shadow lingered below their feet. Was it an usher coming to escort them to the chamber, they thought? Nope. As soon as they turned around, Veronica swung her shotgun like Serena Williams with a tennis racket. Down goes one. Down goes the other. Beer exploded from their mouths like a busted water pipe as they both fell face first into the dirt. While dragging the unconscious members under the stairs, Veronica had a clever idea. Since their cloaks were large enough for 2 people, she pulled one of them off and threw it on over her uniform, disguising the firearm holstered by her side. She threw the saggy hood over her head and entered the church. The interior looked worn and dismal, with a hold-up roof that could collapse at any minute. Other members followed her down the aisle as Thorne's security removed the armory from the wall, revealing a spiraling staircase. Veronica carefully stepped down the curvy steps, not wanting to trip over her gigantic cloak and blow her cover. At the bottom of the steps burned 2 torches alongside a set of dungeon doors. Opening dramatically, Veronica and the cult members entered a large circular room. Torches burned along the brick walls. On the far end stood an old theater stage, furnished with 2 black standing candelabrums and a velvet curtain behind it, reaching from the ceiling to the floor. To the delight of the cult and Veronica's horror, positioned at the center of the stage was an angled table largely resembling a torture rack. Shackled onto that table was a teenaged girl with a potato sack roped over her head. The satanic knife lied next to her, shining under the stage spotlight. Veronica became mortified while watching the little girl squirm helplessly. Indistinct chatter spread through the crowd, discussing what was about to take place. Some smiled from ear to ear, while others slowly turned to look at the doors, having second thoughts about sticking around. Making a regal entrance was the leader of the clan, Thorne. He was wearing an overly embellished purple Celtic robe with an enormous hood covering half of his head. The pentagram sign was painted on his face. Only the whites of his eyes could be seen as he looked at his followers with his arms in the air. Guards dressed in leather bondage took their places around the room. 2 more stood behind the stage candelabras.
May the gods of ash and blood hear our call, Thorne shouted. We have the soul that you seek. Our time has come. The transcendence has begun. Tonight, we will leave our mortal stains behind and walk in the ways of immortality.
Cheers erupted throughout the chamber, drowning out the cries from their young captive.
Where are you, Gina?
Veronica murmured. Her patience was exhausted. Her fingers tapped along the trigger of her firearm, seconds away from blasting these Satan-loving fools. But not yet. Wait a bit longer. Just a bit. Chapter 14. Gina followed the erupting ovation and moseyed over to the light cracking from the curtain. The stage was inches away from where she stood. Chills ran up her spine while eyeing the hungry crowd gazing at the adolescent prisoner as if she was a pig at a luau. State police hadn't arrived yet. Crawling under the stage was a bad idea. How in the world can she pull off this rescue?
Before we start the service,
Thorne continued to preach.
I ask you, brothers and sisters, to give praise to the true and living God, the one who has rescued us from inferiority and dismay, the one who has given us a chance at immortality by carrying on his mission to vanquish the weak souls who've plagued the planet with their lies of this unseen God, whom which we hear about from that blasphemous book they call a Bible.
The cult booed.
They say he mysteriously floats around and shows unconditional love toward humanity. Meanwhile, we still have poverty, heartache, and diseases that decimate our lives. Why do they call our sacrifices evil? People sacrifice each other every day in robberies and shootouts for meaningless materials and mint pieces of paper. Satisfy themselves by abusing their freedom, giving in to their bloodthirsting lust. Is that something to be thankful for? No!
The cult yelled in unison.
They can keep their God. I don't believe in any of these beings or idols this heathenish world has created. Why? Because as a child, I was taught to never believe in fairy tales.
Cheers and applause followed.
And that's what has brought us all here together this evening. We all know who the true and living God is. And after tonight, every soul on this planet will also see the truth. The world needs a wake-up call, and we have been chosen to usher in the dawn of a new age.
Another eruption of cheers ensued.
Tonight, give our God a pure soul to thank him for opening our eyes, for revealing the truth about this ugly world which has kept us enslaved for years. Politics, government, laws, economics. That all comes to an end tonight.
Veronica fought the urge to grab her gun and put these twisted fanatics out of their misery. Gina, on the other hand, was terrified, witnessing an army of brainwashed killers being created before her eyes. Thorne's words sounded convincing, but he was as mindless as the rest of his flock. Praise died down.
We've been promised power beyond our wildest dreams for following the holy laws. He has promised that we will burn in his everlasting fire. Our souls will roam free once our God takes back the world that was stolen from him. And once that happens, he will rule for all eternity.
The group cheered again. Instructing his gathering to bow their heads in prayer, Thorne spread out his arms and lifted his head toward the ceiling. He asked the Dark Lord to accept the showering of adolescent blood as a gift of eternal worship. This was the opening Gina needed. State cops or no state cops, this ludicrous act of murder had to be stopped. She ran on stage and sucker punched the first guard. While falling into the crowd, he knocked down a candelabrum and the stage caught on fire. Thorn howled like a trophy wife on welfare as his robe started burning. Second guard let the fire eat his skin as he tore off the flaming garment. "Curse you!" yelled Thorn. "You dare bring your blasphemous forces to condemn my holy sacrament? You shall be punished!" Amid the chaos, Gina swiped the evil knife from its stand and pried open the shackles wrapped around the little girl's limbs. To her surprise, she recognized her face from the newspaper this morning. Christine Jordan. Crying in relief, Christine freed her arms and wrapped them around the sheriff's neck, heavily sobbing while expressing her gratitude. "Heathen!" Thorn shouted, pointing at the sheriff with overwhelmed eyes. "She is a demon from this world, sent to perish us all! Kill her before the window closes! My minions! Everyone! Kill her now!" More guards ran on stage and slammed Gina down. Thorn cheered from the sideline like an obsessed sports fanatic. Just before the guards could do their worst, two loud bangs filled the room. Blood trickled from their leather masks. Thorn was mortified as he watched his henchmen plummet off the stage. Veronica stood in the middle of the stunned crowd, holding a smoking gun. "Don't let them leave alive!" Thorn shouted to his congregation, seething with anger. At that moment, the cavalry finally arrived as dozens of sirens rang throughout the town. Fleeing for their lives, the followers broke down the doors and scattered in different directions. Dozens of squad cars zoomed down the streets of the dead-end town. Armored state policemen rushed onto the grounds with rifles and shotguns. Many followers gave up voluntarily, but others got killed for choosing death before betrayal. Gina guided young Christine Jordan to the entrance of the secret passageway, showing her the way out. Before she could leave with her, the crazed leader jumped on her back. He snatched the knife out of her hand and wrapped his other arm around her throat. "What have you done?" he screamed. "We need death to give him life. I guess you will have to do." The sheriff judo flipped him to the ground. The knife got lost among the panicking ruckus. 3 members jumped in front of their leader. However, they tumbled like bowling pins as she landed straight punches against their jaws. A guard charged at her with a sneak attack, but a click by his ear caused him to stop in mid-motion. It came from the cold steel clutched in Veronica's hand. Reading his rights was unnecessary. She canceled his membership. More followers attacked her with knives and swords, but Veronica instantly dropped 3 of them with bullets to the skulls. She dared for the rest of them to come, but recognizing it was a no-win situation, they ran for their lives. Stumbling onto the stage, Thorn watched his legion disintegrate into cowards. Nevertheless, his thirst for power consumed every cell in his brain. Witnessing the sheriff pummeling his minions like pizza dough, he grabbed one of the large candelabrum on the stage and lifted it over his head. Swinging with all of his might, he struck Gina in the back of her head. She dropped to the floor, lying motionless. The lunatic leader yelled over her, "You ruined everything! My flock is gone! My army is gone! But I will transcend on my own! The Lord will reward me for going to the ends of my life to oversee his revival. You will all suffer a great deal for disrupting my ceremony, and my God will make sure that you burn for all eternity. Seeing her best friend about to die, Veronica squeezed on the gun trigger, but only clicking sounds came out. Her refills were hidden underneath the overgrown cloak. No time to search for them. She then spotted the satanic knife on the ground. Thorn lifted the candelabrum overhead and aimed it at Gina's skull. At the last second, Veronica picked up the knife and flung it across the chamber. Blood gushed over Thorn's clothes as the blade pierced his black heart. His eyes rolled back while dropping to his knees. Suddenly, his skin immensely bubbled while smoke rose from every opening of his face. Screams morphed to a deep roar as a bat-like demon ejected from out of his mouth and blasted through the ceiling. The rest of his body disintegrated into ash. At that moment, white beams illuminated from the pentagram symbols on the knife, forming into one fiery light. Veronica stared at its unnatural beauty. Just then, a fiery beam blasted from the knife and struck her in the chest, throwing her back against the doors. Wind swooshed throughout the chamber. Wall torches fell over. Flames rose and ate away at the rest of the old church. Woozily regaining consciousness, Gina climbed to her feet and staggered toward an out-cold Veronica. Chunks of wood fell around them. She carried her friend and staggered toward the secret passageway as the flames vastly approached. Reaching the cellar doors, Gina climbed up the stairs as fast as she could. Unfortunately, she wasn't fast enough as the entire church exploded. The ladies were thrown several feet across the field. None had moved, not even to breathe. Unresponsive to the continuous chaos happening around them, state policemen feared they were dead. EMTs checked on their condition. Pulses were weak. Immediately, they rushed the officers into an ambulance and took them to Colfax County Hospital. Chapter 15. Dr. Mars Muhammad, chief physician of Colfax County Hospital, and his staff worked hastily, using whatever resources necessary to stabilize the condition of both heroic ladies. Neighboring rooms were assigned for convenience's sake to check and compare each of their progress. IV tubes were stuck to their arms for nutrients. Sensors slapped on their chests to monitor vital signs. They've been kept sedated to give their bodies time to recover. As hours passed, Veronica's condition held steady while Gina's deteriorated by the minute. Eagle Nest deputies filled up the waiting room, praying for their station leaders to make a fast revival. Nurses came by to update them on any improvements, or lack thereof. Breaking through the despairing silence was a long bleep blaring from Gina's room. Flat lines stretched across her vital monitor. Nurses ran inside and pumped air into her lungs while Dr. Muhammad readied the defibrillator. Doses of electricity were shocked into her chest, but nothing got her heart beating again. After an hour of non-stop work, there was nothing else they could do. Gina Vasquez is gone. Out from the elevator came a heavy-set Israeli gentleman wearing a brown wool coat and matching derby. Horn-rimmed glasses and a scraggly dark gray beard covered his face. Newspaper in one hand and a Bible and crucifix in the other. He approached the help desk and introduced himself to the receptionist. "I was wondering if you could direct me to a patient that was just admitted a few hours ago. At least that's what I've been told."
"What's the patient's name?"
the receptionist asked while checking the manifest. "Gina Vasquez."
"What's your relation to the patient?"
"An old friend of the family." While waiting for the room number, the elderly man noticed a commotion down the hall. Without waiting for permission, he sneaked past the medical staff and rushed inside Gina's room. Heartache was written on his face as he frowned at the sight of the deceased sheriff. "Am I too late?" he whispered to the heavens. Pulling down the sheet to look at Gina's face, he closed his eyes and kissed the crucifix. Perhaps he was going to say a prayer for Alex and the rest of her family. He placed his hand on her forehead and began reciting words in an Arabic dialect, holding his crucifix high. All of a sudden, lightning crackled throughout the room. The ceiling opened up and revealed a beautiful landscape of pastel clouds and blinding sunlight. A female angel with large wings and long red hair soared through the heavenly scene. The elderly man spread out his arms and smiled, basking in all its divine glory. Then the angel swirled in the air a few more times before descending toward the room like a falling star. Within seconds, she swooshed right inside Gina's body. Then the room instantaneously returned to normal. The old man stared at Gina, expecting her to awaken. A minute passed and nothing happened, still unresponsive. Had his prayer been answered? Or did the angel transcend her soul to heaven instead? Gina gripped the bed rails and wailed at the top of her lungs. Eyes opened into glowing white spheres as lightning rippled around her limbs, consuming her body in a golden effulgence. Instead of being concerned, the old man seemed relieved, witnessing a divine transformation happening before his eyes, as if he's seen this happen before. Her body arched like a half-moon, surging with unlimited power, barely able to contain it in her weakened condition. Pounding to get inside, Dr. Muhammad and hospital security kicked the door down. Gina fainted onto the mattress, unconscious once again. Astonishingly, her vital signs were active. The doctor had no logical explanation for her sudden rejuvenation, leading him to second-guess his previous diagnosis. As Dr. Muhammad called over his team to regain control of the situation, the old man unnoticeably left the room, walking past staff members as if he was invisible. He cupped his hands together and thanked God for giving Gina another chance at life. Then he walked past Veronica's room and got struck by an uneasy feeling. He peeked inside and saw her peacefully at rest. Physically, she seemed fine. Vital signs were stable. She looked to be making a full recovery. So what else could be wrong? The old man summoned natural forces around him and sensed something eating away at her spirit, like a dark side forming in her heart. He didn't know her. How could he speak to her? All he could do was hope that she'll have the strength to overcome her diversity. "I'll pray for you, my child," he said, sandwiching her hand with both of his. "I'll pray the most for you." He opened his Bible and recited James chapter 4, verse 7. "Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you." Chapter 16. Black goblins crawled around the abandoned church like ants invading a picnic basket. Christine Jordan, face soaked with tears and clothes drenched in blood, helplessly chained to a wall. The sacrificial knife displayed under a spotlight as Wally, its last known possessor, drowned in the sea of blood. His arms reached up toward the heavens, begging for the good Lord to rescue him. The church then exploded. Fiery light scorched the dismal plain surrounding it. Burning debris rained like a meteor shower. But something else came flying through the scorched pieces of decayed wood, drawing closer like an arrow, getting bigger by the second. No. Oh God! Veronica! Hurling lifeless within the exploding winds, rotting, burning, engulfed in flames.
No!
Gina shouted. She sat up from the bed with her arms reached out, terrified. But her vision was gone. She was back in her hospital room, quaint, with its soft white walls and large beige curtains. Morning rays of the desert sun burst through the blinds. Gina counted backward from 10 to calm herself down. Wiping the sweat from her forehead, she then realized it was another horrifying dream. Damage done to her body must have been severe based on the number of mechanics surrounding her. But weirdly, except for oversleeping, she felt fine. Glancing at the mirror on the wall, she noticed miraculous changes. Smoother skin, glowing and replenished, slender fingers, defined tones in her arms. She flipped up her gown and saw finely sculpted abdominal muscles.
Am I still dreaming?
She wondered.
How did I get here anyway?
As Gina pushed her wild red hair behind her ears, she heard a voice say,
Sleeping Beauty awakes. Who said that?
She turned around. Standing behind her was her sister Alex.
I was getting bored doing all the talking. Are you okay?
A sobbing Gina spread out her arms to welcome a big hug from her little sister. Joyful teardrops ran down her face. Even though looking like she jumped off a box of Wheaties, her body felt like she slid out of a jar of prunes. Still too weak to get up on her own. Alex walked to the bed, smiling from ear to ear. She coiled her arms around her big sister and practically squeezed the air out of her lungs, missing her immensely.
Allie?
Gina gasped.
My lower back is killing me.
She released her intense bear hug and laid her sister down on the bed.
How long have you been here?
Asked Gina, sniffling her nose and wiping the corners of her eyes.
Just arrived here last night,
said Alex, wiping the smudge from her glasses.
I would have been here sooner, but my team and I were on a hunt for a terrorist group plotting to blow up Times Square. Did you get 'em? Naturally. And they let you both over here just like that. Wow, you must have more stroke than I thought, huh? Are you kidding? I'm supposed to be on vacation now. A staycation, if you will. I booked it over a month ago, but I chose to stay on this case until we closed it. As a sign of leadership, you know. Must have been rough. Nah, I'm used to it. Besides, all I had planned were 2 glorious weeks of lying in bed, binge-watching several shows, and picking out on pizza. I would have been bored out of my skull after the first 3 days, so I needed something to do.
Both ladies chuckled. Seeing her sister donning a hospital gown, Alex quickly changed her mood.
I got a call from one of your deputies saying you and Ronnie were in ICU, way out of your jurisdiction. I requested air support as soon as we got back to headquarters and landed here in Colfax a few hours later. Nurses directed me to this room, and I never left your side except to either get some food or check in on Ronnie. Ronnie? How is she? Not sure, G.
Dr. Muhammad told me she's been sedated since you were both brought in. She was just as banged up as you were. But for some strange reason, she hasn't shown signs of improvement nor decline. If not for her breathing, you would think she was dead. However, the doc believes she'll eventually pull through.
Jesus, why did I drag her into this with me? I should have ordered her to stay in the truck and wait for backup or something.
Seriously? Do you think she would have sat on the sidelines knowing you needed her help? Ain't happening, G. Ronnie takes responsibility for her actions. You know that, and I know that. And speaking of which, why the hell were you two out here so late at night?
Gina explained the entire horrifying story. Shocked upon hearing the brutal and gory details, Alex gasped more times than a sumo wrestler running a marathon.
I swear, only a screenwriter can make this up.
Alex sighed.
This isn't what policemen do. Are you just cloaked in bad luck? I used to think so, replied Gina.
Truth be told, I've never felt better in my life. Christine Jordan will get to see her family again thanks to Ronnie and me. For the first time in a long time, justice had been served, and I was a part of it.
That's the Gina I used to know. I just got chills.
Gina smiled. Dr. Muhammad entered the room for a routine check of Gina's vitals. Alex excused herself and went to check on Veronica next door. She crept open the door, imagining on surprising her friend just as she awoke from her long nap. But alas, no change. Happy Veronica's condition hadn't worsened or worried her body had yet recovered. Wait. A blip on the monitor just flashed. What does it mean? Is that her heart rate? Could it be? Oh no. It was leisurely declining. Concern fell on her face as she held Veronica's hand and whispered,
Hang in there, Ronnie.
At that moment, her beats returned to normal. It's like hearing a friendly voice unconsciously gave her spirit a renewed surge to fight on. At least, that's what the agent told herself. Gina's guilt would worsen after seeing her best friend in such a predicament. Further depression. She couldn't let that happen. Therefore, she decided to keep Gina away until Veronica is out of sedation and back to normal. Dr. Muhammad had met Alex in the hallway just as they both exited their respective rooms. He asked how his other patient was doing. Alex just nodded, which told him no change had occurred. Waiting is always the stressful part, he said. It could take hours or maybe even weeks, but trust me when I say your friend will make it. Miss Silverblaze is as strong and resourceful as your sister, and look at the remarkable recovery she has made. Be patient, Miss Vasquez. She'll pull through.
I know, Doctor,
said Alex.
But my sister already feels guilty about dragging her out here in the first place. I informed her earlier about Ronnie's condition, but if she sees it with her own two eyes, then it may deflate the confidence she's fought so hard to regain.
She exhaled.
Can you do me a favor, Doctor? Is it possible to have Ronnie moved for the time being? Say it's for reasons you can't disclose, but assure her a speedy recovery, or lay some kind of doctor talk, I don't know.
But why? Your friend needs all the support she can get right now.
I'm aware of that. But Gina has been dying a slow death for years now, based on actions from her past. Seeing Ronnie like this will push her over the edge. I know it's asking a lot, but you'll be doing her a great service, and me too.
Understood. I'll have Miss Silverblaze move within the hour, but first, I must file the paperwork to discharge Miss Vasquez.
Discharge? My sister can leave?
I'm just as surprised as you, Miss Vasquez. My nurses and I ran every examination to assure her condition is stable. She's as fit as a fiddle. Bruises and scrapes have healed. No broken ribs, like we previously thought. She'll be ready to leave by this afternoon.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Doctor.
Dr. Muhammad excused himself and walked down the hall to his office. As Alex was about to go back into Gina's room, a nurse from the nurse's station hollered for her to wait. She trotted down toward her, holding an envelope.
I was told to give this to Miss Vasquez,
The nurse explained.
What is this?
She suspiciously asked as the nurse handed her the envelope. Alex flipped open the flap and pulled out a wooden crucifix. She has seen this item before, but she can't remember where. For some strange reason, she felt it came from someone close to her family.
Who was the last person to visit?
I think an elderly man. He didn't stay very long.
Did he sign the manifest?
I believe so. Alex and the nurse hurried to the nurse's station and scanned the visitor sign-in sheet. They checked the night when Gina was admitted. Only 2 names appeared on the page, Alexandra Vasquez and Matthew Good. The agent was awestruck.
What in the world?
She thought.
Can't be.
Pastor Matthew Good, a loving and humble man of God, is an old friend of the Vasquez family. For years, he's been a parental figure and spiritual influence on their mother, Sienna. One night, while patrolling the streets of the South Bronx, Sienna got shot after saving a young girl from a rape attempt. He walked by Sienna as she stumbled onto the sidewalk, drenched in blood. Immediately, he came to her aid. When they got to the hospital, he stayed with her throughout the night, praying for her life to be saved. By morning, Sienna thanked the pastor, and the two have been close ever since. As kids, Gina and Alex saw the pastor in their home sporadically, never without a smile on his face. He offered warmth and security like an angel sitting on their shoulder. But how could he have known what was going on? Unless he watched from afar, there's no way his visit could have been so perfectly timed. Alex pondered on how much of a divine influence did the pastor truly have. Racing back to the room, she burst through the door and hopped on Gina's bed. In her head, she arranged her thoughts to try and not sound insane. Gina took a sip of water and waited for her sister to speak. Judging from the stress on the agent's face, she expected it to be related to her encounter with the spawns of Satan.
Do you remember Pastor Good?
Asked Alex.
Of course.
Said Gina.
His name was synonymous with Santa Claus while growing up. Not there every day, but a happy day when he arrived. Why do you ask? Have you talked to him recently?
No, but I
remember before I left for the academy, I asked him to say a blessing for me. The words that poured from out his mouth were so beautiful that it greatly touched my heart. I thought God had been watching over me ever since. I wish I did a better job of staying in touch with him, especially when I got engaged. Maybe he could have warned me of my upcoming hardships.
You trust his word that much, huh?
Absolutely. Mom told me how he changed her life, giving her unconditional support after Grandpa passed away. The pastor was the reason Mom stuck with law enforcement instead of pursuing nursing. You remember that?
Alex nodded.
I just feel there's a higher presence when I talk to him. It might sound weird. When I'm around him, it's like, how can you say it? Almost
divine?
Yes.
I'm inclined to believe you.
Alex unfolded a sign-in sheet and passed it to Gina. Seeing Pastor Good's name made her think she was dreaming again. Her head turned to Alex, who looked as equally astonished.
Did you tell him you were coming here to see me?
Asked Gina.
Nobody knows I'm here.
Not even Mom?
Alex shook her head no.
Then why in God's name would he show up right after we got... Did something happen that you're not telling me?
Her sister looked away for a moment. Again, the words escaped her.
Well, how should I put this?
She cleared her throat and sighed.
The night you and Ronnie were brought here, the state of your condition was comatose. Dr. Muhammad and his nurses did what they could to revive you. But eventually, you died. And that's why I rushed over here.
Time seemed to stop. Never has she fathomed discussing her death while still alive.
He knew I was going to die?
Gina speculated.
That can't be possible.
Alex dismissed.
Divine connections are one thing, but you're talking precognition. Can you honestly believe the pastor possesses such an implausible gift?
I don't know. After seeing this paper, however, I can't entirely claim it as a coincidence. I have to know for sure. And the only way for me to do that is to talk to him face to face.
How do we know if he's still in the area? If your theory is correct, then he must have known you eventually awakened. Given his inconspicuous absence, I say he wanted to stay stealth. He's probably back in New York by now.
That's where I have to go.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that I need to solve this mystery. You finally get your wish. I'm coming home.
Chapter 17. Both ladies buzzed with excitement as they left the hospital and drove to Colfax County Airport. Alex used one of the several connections she made throughout the years in the bureau and got themselves an executive jet. Not only will they go home in style, but it'll save them at least an hour compared to an economy flight. Gina wanted to say goodbye to Veronica, but Dr. Muhammad honored Alex's request and said she had to be moved to another wing for further testing. The most she could do was hand the nurse a written note to give to her as soon as she wakes up. 3 hours in the air gave Gina time to think. Was this a good idea? It seemed insane, chasing after a person she hadn't seen in years because of a supernatural theory. Imaginary? Perhaps. Also, going home without giving the folks a call or writing a letter. Will they get offended? How will they react to the reason for her unexpected return? Then again, they didn't want her to leave in the first place. She may wind up being praised like the prodigal son. Either way, this hunch was too coincidental to ignore. If her theory on the pastor turns out to be far-fetched, she at least owed him a thank you. For someone who was supposed to be on vacation, Alex stayed on the phone half the time, laying out instructions for her team as if she was still on the job. She's the type who will get upset if something big had happened during her absence. Like her sister, Alex had no life at home either. Being on the field is what lit a fire inside of her. She lived for danger and excitement and only went home to sleep. As the jet lowered from the clouds, Gina got goosebumps catching a view of the Manhattan skyline. Doubt had instantly been replaced with excitement, that feeling she used to get when coming home for a weekend pass from the academy. Even if the reason for this trip sounded ludicrous, it never felt more right. Alex had had her forest green Honda parked in the hangar of LaGuardia Airport. Gina offered to pay for gas and tolls, but the insistent agent wouldn't hear of it. Business as usual was the facade Alex wore on the outside. Deep inside, however, she was so excited to finally have her big sister back home. 45 minutes into the drive, it was mostly quiet. Conversations stayed at a minimum. Gina spent most of the trip going down memory lane, passing neighborhoods she played at as a kid and remembering the streets she used to patrol as a cop. Not wanting to overwhelm her, Alex did most of the talking and tried to keep Gina as calm as possible. For Gina, however, settling her nerves became more difficult than imagined. She hasn't seen her mother in years. How will she react? Has Alex even told her yet? Coming home was long overdue. Paul had no problem moving on with his life, even though it took him months to recover. How long will it take for her to climb out of the hole of guilt and punishment she buried herself in? Entering Westchester County, Gina looked perplexed.
What are we doing here? Got lost in the Bronx?
Oh, silly me,
Alex said, tapping her forehead.
Forgot to tell you. Mom and Dad sold the house a couple of years ago. They no longer needed so many rooms, you know. That's what they say.
So they moved into an apartment?
Gina asked.
They bought a 2-story townhouse up in Yonkers.
Doesn't that have many rooms?
Yes,
Alex laughed.
but they plan to rent out the bottom half for extra money. Also, Daddy wanted to handle the repairs just to give himself something to do. Retirement can bring boring days at times.
Once they arrived, Gina noticed some contrast between the new neighborhood and their previous residence. Quieter streets, steep hills, a lot more trees, and hardly any buildings.
How'd you holding up?
Asked Alex as she parked in the driveway. Gina just nodded.
They're not going to cook you and eat you. Mom's gonna be gleaming once you walk through that door. You don't have to tell her why you came back, just as long as you're back. They're going to be ecstatic, can't you see that?
I can't.
Gina doubted.
I left because I was too afraid to face my problems like an adult. Damn! When was the last time I called to wish them a Merry Christmas? Who does that?
The humankind.
They must still have reservations about what I've done.
They don't. From the moment you left, they prayed for 2 things. For you to find inner peace and for their days to feel like ours until our family is whole again. And here we are, together.
At that moment, Gina forgot that Alex was the younger sister. The ladies weren't halfway out of the car before a skinny and much older gentleman with thin strands of slick gray hair ran out to the front yard and hollered, Mi niña! Mi niña, te quiero! Immediately, Gina knew it was her father, Raul Vasquez. She sprinted across the lawn towards him. Raul lifted her off the ground, giving her a tight hug. Alex laughed at seeing Gina being ragdolled from side to side. He then scooped up Alex and bear hugged both of them until they couldn't breathe. This is the most energetic Raul had felt in years, having his family back together. He excitedly ushered his daughters through the back entrance of the house, and waiting by the door was an emotional Sienna Vasquez. Gina felt such an ache in her chest. She couldn't control her breathing.
Mom!
She called out, running to her like a marathon runner approaching the finish line. Sienna nearly squeezed the air out of her daughter's body, repeatedly tapping her red hair, making sure it was her. She then waved Alex over, and the ladies shared a warm group hug. Raul, acting poised, walked over and smothered the most important women in his life. A small tear rolled down his face. While Gina, Alex, and Raul settled in the living room, Sienna had just finished creating a masterful welcome home dinner for her family. Shrimp jambalaya with sausage, red rice, Caesar salad, freshly squeezed lemonade to drink, and flan for dessert. Safe to say, everyone will sleep good tonight. Raul had a photo album on his lap, thumbing through earlier pictures of his daughters as children. He pulled out the ones with their funny-looking outfits and outdated hairstyles. Gina hadn't laughed this much in years. Raul didn't know much English, so Gina and Alex spoke to him in Spanish to keep the conversation going. Translated from Spanish to English,
Aw, Daddy, I wish you would have left these pictures in the attic of the old house.
Gina said, chuckling.
I remember all the fights I had in school because of those damn pigtails.
Yes, yes, yes.
Alex laughed to the point of losing her breath.
They used to call you the little Wendy's girl.
Figures you will remember that.
I also remember the beatdown you put on those boys for all their heckling. They used to always run home crying for their mamas. Even the kindergarteners cracked up.
Gina and Alex laughed together. Wiping the tears from his eyes and slowing down his laughter, Raul said, Gina, you always like to fight. Such a tough cookie. But pigtails or not, you still look like an angel to me.
Aw, thank you, Daddy.
Gina leaned over and gave her father a peck on the cheek.
That's your fault, by the way. All of my fighting talents came from you.
Raul laughed in agreement.
And Daddy's little girl became Daddy's little knockout,
added Alex. Before having a career in the Postal Service, Raul Vasquez fought as a professional boxer with a record of 46 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw. His accolades include 5 world championships in 4 weight classes and had never been KO'd. He never became a marquee prize fighter, but there was never a worry about winding up in the poorhouse. Although he equally loved both his daughters, a special bond existed between him and Gina. While Alex was a baby, Raul would take a 4-year-old Gina to watch live boxing at Madison Square Garden. Fellow boxers kept her entertained while Raul recited his workout routine. They also played soccer together in the park after school, birthing Gina's athletic and gritty persona. Alex became analytical like her mother. While too young to take part in their father-daughter outings, Alex spent plenty of time in her mother's office drawing on the pages of law books while Sienna examined court cases. They also took morning dips in the Van Cortlandt Park pool and spent some afternoons at the library. Seeing her mother rise to great heights in the judicial system, Gina steered away from athletics and switched her focus toward law enforcement. The duo then became a trio as the ladies would share their growth and awesome experiences. Raul was proud to contribute to the growth of his daughters becoming strong and able women. Sienna set the table as if she planned an elegant banquet. Like so many times in the past, she stood by the kitchen door and called out,
"Food's ready!"
In came her family, running to the dining room like kids at recess. Raul and Sienna sat at the ends of the table while Gina and Alex sat at the sides. As tempting as it was to devour the delicious food placed in front of their eyes, nobody made a move until they said grace. Joining hands, the Vasquez family bowed their heads as Sienna spoke in prayer.
What we're most thankful for is to share this meal as a family. And thank you for bringing my baby home.
Gina smiled.
Amen.
Silverware clanged against the plates as they ate, drank, talked, and laughed like a normal family once again. Gina ate more than her stomach could handle, asking for second and third helpings. She even licked the garlic breadcrumbs stuck on her fingertips. Alex had her fair share of food, but saved room for the tasty dessert waiting in the fridge. Sienna hardly touched her plate. Although grateful to have Gina back home, something else was on her mind. She then stared out at the stars outside the window, just staring, expressionless. Then the light touch of Alex's hand brought her back. Sienna smiled and rejoined the conversation. Chapter 18. Everyone volunteered to help, but Sienna insisted that she would handle the cleanup alone. Therefore, Raul and his daughters strolled out to the backyard and stretched out on the lawn chairs, gazing at the twinkling night sky. Security and comfort never felt stronger for Gina. However, Matthew Good weighed heavy on her mind. Hopefully, you'll have answers to the dozens of questions she's dying to ask.
Hey,
Alex whispered, nudging her sister's arm.
now's the perfect time to talk to Mom.
Nah, she's busy.
Said Gina.
Maybe I'll wait until she's done. Besides, I don't know what to say.
I missed you. I'm glad to be home. I love your cooking. I hated your cooking. Something, anything. Just talk to her.
As Gina hesitantly got to her feet, Alex dragged over a small lawn table and challenged her father to a game of gin rummy. She entered the kitchen through the back door and spotted her mother shimmying to salsa tunes on her small tabletop radio while washing the dishes. From the corner of her eye, Sienna saw Gina standing by the stack of wet plates near the sink, holding a dry towel.
No, mija,
Sienna disputed.
Go back out there and relax. I'll join you in a minute.
Come on, Mom,
said Gina.
This is supposed to be my homecoming, right? Well, treat me like I'm back home and give me some chores to do, please.
Sienna sighed before allowing her daughter to dry the dishes. Gina showed a bright smile but was still nervous inside. Her mind went blank. Why was she so nervy? If problems can't be brought to their parents, then children will be lost in the storm. Enough. Blurt out the first thought that comes to mind.
Love the new house. Cozy and comfortable for you guys.
I miss our old place.
Sienna shrugged.
It may sound silly, but that's where you and your sister were raised, you know? Originally, I wanted to leave the house to one of you so you could spend your retirement years in comfort without worrying about mortgage payments and stuff like that.
Thanks for the thought, Mom. But you know Al and I will be okay.
Yes, I know. Times change, people change, and you two, being so talented and hardworking, will probably have enough money to buy 2 homes when you get to be my age.
Gina giggled.
So your daddy managed to find a buyer who made us a great offer, and here we are.
I think it's perfect. I love it. How's your downstairs tenant?
Such a nice guy. He works the night shift for the MTA, so we hardly see him. However, his rent check comes on time. Every time. No complaints here. Are you planning to stay tonight?
I love to, but I already told Allie I stayed with her. Cook another meal like this tomorrow night, and I might change my accommodations.
Then you should leave your bag right here.
Sienna laughed.
None of y'all are ready for what I'm making tomorrow night.
They spoke about how Alex had grown into a beautiful woman, conversed about her childhood, and even shared her wild police stories. But neither of them wanted to be the first to mention the big elephant in the room. Why now? 5 years is a long time not to hear from anyone. It's even longer when it's your kids. Gina sighed and chose to be the first to drop the bomb.
I was selfish, Mom. I shouldn't have run away. From you, Daddy, Alex. I let my shame cloud my judgment and couldn't bear to look at you without feeling like I let you all down. The pain never went away, Mom. It got worse year after year after year, and I regretted leaving you every day since. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry.
As she began to sob, Sienna cradled her in her arms and rocked back and forth.
Never blame yourself for what happened,
she said, caressing the back of Gina's red hair.
We're the selfish ones. Thinking you would forget about that night was the wrong way for us to behave. We all had different ideas on how you should move on with your life. None of us bothered to ask what you wanted to do.
But I should have stayed and worked it out with you.
No, we couldn't eradicate those demons you carried inside. Only you could. And you needed your space to figure out how. It took me some time to accept that, but finally I did. And I'm glad you were brave enough to do what you did. Saying you regret it? I'm looking at you and I've never seen you in better shape. More beautiful than ever.
What about Daddy? I didn't see him again after the trial. Was he disappointed?
Yes, at himself. He used his ailing condition as an excuse for not visiting. But we both know your father is as healthy as an ox. Just the thought of seeing you in a prison jumpsuit broke his heart. That same tenacity that lasted throughout his boxing career now lives inside of you, and he blamed himself for not teaching you how to control it.
Gina was saddened to hear her father had taken fault for her mistake. Sienna cupped her daughter's face in her hands.
He'll never admit this, but your departure was the main reason he wanted to sell the house. Memories made it hurt too much for him to stay, fearing we'll never get them back. Then one day, he told me about a dream he had. You were in an open field, graceful, elegant, standing like a gladiator, surrounded by a golden glow. A gathering of angels flew overhead, blowing trumpets. He said it felt so real that after waking up, he got down on his knees and talked to God for the first time since your arrest. He then woke me up with excitement, saying you'll be coming home soon. That's why he's so calm right now. He knew you'd be back.
Gina grew awkwardly numb. Her father had a dream involving her in such a profound manner, glowing in gold. She wondered if his dream included zombies too.
What were you thinking when he told you about his dream?
She curiously asked.
It's complicated. I was thrilled at the idea of you coming home, but it frightened me to hear you portrayed with angels. So many thoughts came over me.
Like what?
Sienna motioned her lips to say something, but then held back suddenly.
It's too long to explain. Another time, I promise.
Continuing to dry the dishes, Gina looked around in the newly lavished kitchen. Something beautifully designed above the doorway to the living room had grabbed her eyes' attention. A hand-carved wooden cross highly detailed with vines, leaves, and infinity symbols. It looked as if it took several months to complete.
Where did you get that cross?
She asked.
Oh, a week ago, Pastor Good came over for dinner.
Sienna recalled. Hearing his name made Gina nearly fumble a dish into the sink.
Pastor Good?
You don't remember Matthew? How many pictures have you seen him in? He was at my wedding, your christening, Allie's christening, Grandma's passing. He's practically family.
Gina composed herself from fainting. Does this man truly have a divine connection, or just an insane amount of luck?
Oh yeah, I remember the pastor. Always smiling, even during the crappiest of days. I remember him like it was yesterday. So how is he?
Great. He called from out of nowhere and asked if I've heard from you lately. After I told him about your father's dream, he asked to come over for a visit. Naturally, I invited him to dinner, and he gave me that cross as a thank you gift, saying it'll provide comfort for our household.
Did you tell him where I was?
How could I? I had no idea where you were living. Alex said she didn't know either, but I knew she was lying. Anyway, you needed time alone, so I was okay with not knowing, for the time being. But if you were in trouble, I would drop everything to help you, then strangle the heck out of both of you for keeping secrets from me.
This is very strange because, Pastor Good recently came to see me too.
Then Gina spilled the beans about everything, including the reason she came home.
Only 2 people came to see me in the hospital, Alex and Pastor Good. If you didn't tell him where I was, then how did he know I'd be there that night? Can you explain that to me, Mom?
Sienna didn't move. Gina called out to her and asked if she was okay. Immediately, her mother reached for a pen and tore off a page from the reminder pad on the counter. Her sorrowful look spoke volumes. She knew more about her daughter's dilemma than wanting to admit. She then handed her the paper.
That's where you'll find Pastor Good. Believe me, he can explain everything to you better than I can.
What do you mean?
I hope to God nothing like this would have happened to you, especially with the pain you've endured already. Just remember while you're talking to him that you do have a choice. Follow your heart and see where it leads you. That'll decide how you'll live the rest of your days.
Wait, what are you not telling me?
Trust me, Mija. Matthew can answer all your questions. I know that because he helped me when it was my turn.
Gina was stunned.
There's a reason why I was such a great cop and an even greater attorney. Choices. We make them every day.
What's happened to me, Mom?
Shh. Be patient, sweetie. Please talk to Matthew tomorrow, and I promise he'll tell you everything you want to know. Keep an open mind. Follow your heart.
Chapter 19. Dinner had ended on an awkward note, but yet pleasant. Alex was on the road to Manhattan, taking Gina back to her apartment for some much-needed rest. She listened in on the traffic report and heard that the southbound I-95 was an outdoor parking lot due to an exploding truck. Therefore, Alex cruised through the local streets and planned to take the Bruckner Expressway to Castle Hill Avenue. Gina blankly stared out the window. Thoughts and emotions ran through her mind like wildfire, sucking out the energy she had left. Whatever Pastor Good did at the hospital appeared to have spooked her mother.
So how did it go with Mom?
Alex curiously asked.
I can't say.
Gina answered.
Honestly, I thought I'd feel better by now. Thinking we'd be acting like a couple of college girls on a sleepover, you know? Sharing laughs about tonight, deciding what to watch on demand, and picking out on ice cream. But now, all I'm feeling is more confused. Every answer I get leads to more questions needing to be asked.
What does that mean?
She told me that I can find a pastor at the Inner Life of Holy Worship Church.
That's great. One less item on your list, right? So what's the confusing part?
As Gina attempted to unscramble the puzzling conversation she had with her mother, large headlights blindly flashed from Alex's window.
Allie, look out!
She shouted. A faded brown Ford Taurus zoomed past the red light and T-boned into Alex's Civic. Banging metal echoed in their ears. Broken glass swiped their faces as the car swerved in circles, making donuts in the middle of the intersection. The colliding Taurus had then crashed grill first into a lamppost. With no sense of balance, Alex stumbled out of the car first. It felt as if the world around her moved in slow motion as she rubbed on her ears to shake out the ringing sound. Except for a few cuts on her cheek and glass caught in her hair, she was fine. Gina, astonishingly at full strength, without a scratch on her, ran around the car to help Alex regain balance.
Are you okay, Allie?
She asked.
I'm good.
Groaned Alex.
I'm gonna check that other car. Can you divert the oncoming traffic in the meantime? Be back in a jiffy.
Maybe you should sit down a bit. Let me check the other car.
It's not your jurisdiction, G. Besides, if a dangerous situation was to jump off and a civilian, which is you, should get hurt while a government agent, which is me, is on the scene, then I'd be in some deep trouble. Now don't worry about me. I'll be right back.
As Alex trotted off, the best Gina could do was flash her sheriff badge and redirect traffic away from the intersection. Frustrated drivers made sour faces while making broken U-turns and driving down unknown neighborhood streets. Residents got on their smartphones and recorded live videos for their social media accounts. Just then, the surrounding chaos fell silent around her. Danger! She could hear nothing except her inner voice whispering to her that something terrible was about to happen. Her heartbeat escalated, overcome by heat. Where was the danger coming from? Did somebody die in a crash? Or about to? She then looked toward Alex. Oh no. Through a thick mass of smoke, Alex crept closer to the crashed car. She couldn't tell if the passengers were alive inside. The driver laid unconscious against the airbag. Broken glass crinkled underneath her shoes. However, she noticed other pieces glistening in the yellow-brownish light. She kneeled down and fanned away some glassy chunks. And to her shock, she picked up a gold coin. Hundreds more were then seen underneath the car. Moreover, shiny artifacts spilled out from a few duffel bags inside the busted trunk.
Gold?
She gasped.
How is that possible?
From out of nowhere, a man wearing a ski mask appeared from the shadows holding a double-barrel shotgun. Alex never saw him coming. Just as he opened fire, Gina flashed over instantly and tackled her sister to the ground. The driver sat up and got out of the car, followed by 2 more men who crawled out from the side doors, armed with semi-automatics.
Stay down!
Gina yelled out to the bystanders as she grabbed Alex and raced behind her damaged Civic. Bullets rattled from across the intersection, banging against their car as if they were launching crowbars with a slingshot. Oncoming cars swerved out of the way, rear-ending each other and leaving skid marks on the road. Trails of exhaust polluted the night air.
How'd you get so fast? How you know? What the
Shuddered Alex.
I don't know, Al.
Gina stammered. Just then, a black suburban Jeep bulldozed through the traffic and screeched next to the busted Taurus. As the shooters ran toward the vehicle, Alex unholstered her Glock 36 and fired back. One assailant got struck in the arm as he jumped inside. The other 3 ran back inside their vehicle for cover. Not wanting to get caught, the big wheels of the Suburban peeled off the blacktop, abandoning their teammates while hauling ass down the street. Gina looked at Alex and signaled she was going after the Jeep. Obeying jurisdictional boundaries was pointless. Besides, Alex had to know about the origin of those gold coins now appearing to have been stolen. She couldn't let them get away.
Go!
She says.
I got this!
No stutters in Gina's step as she ran through the brigade of flying bullets and commandeered a vehicle abandoned on the side of the street, battered from the gunfire. Keys stayed hanging from the ignition, just begging to be used. She twisted the key, but the engine didn't kick over. Twisting and twisting, nearly breaking the key in half, and still nothing happened.
Work, damn it!
She shouted while punching the dashboard, and just like that, the throttle percolated. Gina slammed on the gas pedal and screeched toward the direction of fresh skid marks. Meanwhile, Alex continued trading bullets with the assailants, running low on ammunition. What's worse, these guys show no signs of surrender. They needed to be put down, but how? As glass particles sprinkled by her feet, she came up with a brilliant idea. When the crew stopped to reload, Alex crawled underneath her car. Like target practice, she squeezed the trigger and let the bullets fly. Blood splashed out from their ankles as all 3 dropped to the ground, wallowing in pain. She raced toward the group and kicked their weapons to the side, but now a new dilemma surfaced. 3 shooters, but 1 pair of handcuffs.
How to do this?
She thought.
Got it.
2 shooters got shackled together as she slipped the cuffs between the car door handle and locked 1 wrist each. The 3rd shooter made a pathetic attempt to crawl away, but he screamed in pain as she drove the heel of her shoe into his spine. She said.
Stay right there.
Alex drew her gun on him while pulling out her phone to call police. She ordered them to send some EMTs and plenty of traffic cops to sustain fluidity among the streets. She then contacted a member of her team, Kristen Cho, perimeter statistician.
Sorry to call at this hour, Chris,
She said.
but I need your help, and I need it fast. Comes with a job.
Said Kristen.
Besides, you're the boss. What do you need? I need you to cross-reference all records of artifacts arriving into the country with any synagogues or religious communities in New York, specifically within the vicinity of the Bronx.
After a few minutes of typing and clicking, Kristen shouted,
Got one! According to our friends in customs, a shipment of rare religious artifacts arrived in the States a couple of days ago, marked as a gift from the Vatican, made of pure gold. The Vatican? That's right. The recipient came from a church in the Bronx, somewhere in West Fordham Road. Name of the church is, give me a second. The Inner Life of Holy Worship Church. You got to be kidding me. And the name of the pastor who signed for them is Matthew Good, right? Exactly. How did you know? Long story. Get back to you.
Alex hung up and rubbed a migraine forming on the right side of her head. How is it possible for this robbery to be intertwined with the very same church that Gina's supposed to visit tomorrow? Looking back at the collision, she thought to herself,
What the hell is going on here?
Chapter 20. Gina watched the black Jeep shrink before her eyes. The gap between the cars had widened to the size of a skating rink. No matter how hard she stomped on her gas, her car was unable to pick up any more speed. The Jeep ate a red light and was about to make a clean getaway. Just when all hope seemed lost, a crossing yellow taxicab collided with the massive Jeep. Torn steel and broken glass scattered across the intersection, while tires made burning curves on the tarmac. Neither driver exited their vehicles nor drove away. Great time to catch up. An irate cabbie stomped out of his vehicle and slammed the door, hollering about suing and his insurance. He walked to the Jeep and started cursing out the driver from outside his window. But his point of view instantly changed as the window lowered and a shotgun was pointed in between his eyes. Seeing Gina closing in, the Jeep rammed past the taxi and fled the accident scene. Unable to get close to them, Gina grew frustrated and slammed her hand on the dashboard, cursing at the car like a criminal in the back of a squad car. All of a sudden, the engine roared like a hot rod and the car thrust forward with lightning speed, going over 90 miles per hour. She grasped onto the steering wheel, astonished at how it was now moving like a Ferrari. Now only inches away from the Jeep, Gina drove up to the left side and rammed into it a few times. That didn't slow the Jeep down. Tinted windows rolled down and automatic weapons sprayed her car, further wrecking the exterior. Gina pumped the brake to escape the line of fire and then got behind the massive vehicle. She then rammed and pushed at the back wheel, which caused it to swerve. The road now went upward, leading to a dead end on top of the hill. A pointy black gate stood atop. Behind it was a steep and rocky mountainside and a pit of greenery lying several feet below. Both cars smashed into one another as the dead end speedily approached. Jump!
What? Who said that?
Her inner voice re-emerged. Based on the few times this happened before, there was nothing to think about. She swerved into the Jeep one last time and then jumped out of the car. It jumped onto the sidewalk and folded like origami as it collided into a brick apartment building. At the speed her car was going, she should have been in immense pain, rolling on the pavement like a log down the river stream. But instead, she got right to her feet and ran uphill. How on earth can this be? Losing steering control, the Jeep broke through the black gates and drove off the mountainside, twisting and further damaging its steel frame as it smashed against the jagged rocks. The assailants were still trapped inside, rattling around like sneakers in the washing machine. Minutes of violent tumbling came to a stop as the Jeep crashed onto a bed of rocks lying upside down like crumpled aluminum foil. Gina reached the top of the hill and noticed a steep staircase on the right side of the busted gate. She trotted halfway down and then climbed over the banister, jumping onto the greenery. Blood flowed over the rocks like a spilled paint can. A body was found along her path, lying motionless. She turned over the body and saw his eyes rolled into his skull. She knew no normal person could have survived that drop, but what troubled her was discovering 3 long slashes across his torso. Dried bloodstains on his shirt. No way fresh blood could have dried that quickly.
Was he hurt already?
She thought. Maneuvering through the ugly branches and rotted leaves, 3 more bodies appeared along her path. None showed signs of life. And there was the Jeep, mangled like a plate of gray spaghetti. Smoking exhaust clouded the foliage. Were these all the passengers? Are any left alive? So much for getting answers. But wait. She heard subtle movement inside the Jeep. Gina opened the door and grabbed onto someone's leg. Could someone be alive after all? No. She pulled out another dead body. However, she still heard something moving. From the trunk, maybe? She climbed inside the Jeep and bent over the back seat. There was one person left alive. Folding down the back seat, Gina dragged the last assailant out into the moonlight and laid him onto the dirt. She couldn't believe her eyes. The last time she spoke to this person, she was very rude. Here was a longtime friend, Sylvan Livingston.
Sylvan?
Gina asked disbelievingly.
Why?
Blood ran down the sides of his quivering lips, while his shortness of breath made it difficult to express any words. You, Gina, he mumbled. Why? Why'd you come back?
Hold on, Sil.
She stammered.
I'll get you some help. Just hold on.
No, 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 no. Don't leave or you're dead. We're all dead. I'm sorry. I was wrong. He's evil.
Who's evil?
He's the devil.
What? Come on, Sylvan, tell me. Who, Sylvan?
His body went limp. No more breath pumped from his lungs. As Gina laid him on the ground, she noticed dried blood on his clothing also. Slash marks across his chest, exactly like the other bodies. She pressed down his eyelids.
Why?
She asked up to the heavens.
Why is this happening to me?
Chapter 21. Sunshine, blue skies, noontime bloomed in the city. Sleeping through the entire morning, Gina was shocked to be waking up on a Victorian-style sofa. Where was she? Judging by the white living room walls, cleanliness, old-style furniture, and the vinyl record playing standing by the grand windows, she knew exactly where she was. Her parents' house. Gina sat up on the couch and spotted Alex sitting at the dining room table, examining the golden artifacts they retrieved last night. Normally, Gina would be thrilled over stopping a robbery, but seeing a good friend die before her eyes had dampened the mood. Today she planned to have her long-awaited meeting with Pastor Good. But after last night's chaotic episode, who knows if she'll ever make it there?
Welcome back,
said Alex, as Gina stood up and stretched out her limbs as if they were made from rubber.
How long have I been out for?
She asked.
All morning.
Seriously? Damn, I must have been out of it. The last time I remember was being in that ditch and blank. Nothing. I don't even remember how I got here last night.
You called me last night and I picked you up somewhere in Castle Hill. None of this ring a bell?
Thought your car got totaled in the shootout.
I asked the Bureau for emergency transportation, and they gave me a brand new Infinity Gauntlet.
Gina looked out the window and shielded her eyes as the pine green vehicle gleamed from the driveway.
Jeez, you don't remember that either. Then again, you did act like you were sleepwalking when I found you.
Did Mom and Dad see us?
Just us, not the gold. I told Mom that traffic was backed up due to an accident, so that we changed our minds and came back here. Food gave you the itis, that type of ordeal.
And she believed you.
I didn't lie to her, at least not completely. They left for Orchard Beach early this morning, so they won't be back for hours. That gives us plenty of time to put the pieces of this puzzle together.
Gina pulled out a chair from the table and sat down.
What happened after I sped off?
Alex picked up some coins and let it slide off her hands.
I called for a retrieval unit to collect this evidence before the local cops showed up. Funny thing is, my unit was in and out before I heard any sirens. After what seemed like forever, the cops arrived and carted away the shooters in the paddy wagon. But let me tell you, that ain't the news of the night.
There's more?
Yes. Take a good look at these.
She slid a gathering of gold pieces across the table, shining like spotlights at a runway show. Gina picked one up and carefully examined it.
These look like artifacts,
she guessed.
Were the shooters carrying these?
Yup, plus these babies down here.
Alex pointed to 2 tote bags under the table.
All this was stuffed in the trunk of their busted car.
I have to imagine they were stolen.
You imagine correct. However, I bet you'll never guess where they were stolen from. From an old church right here in the Bronx. Not that far of a drive.
Really? Which one?
Alex cleared her throat.
Where were you going today?
The Inner Life. My God. No way! Are you telling me these guys robbed the same church I'm supposed to be going to today? You can't be serious!
Agent Cho checked it twice, and she's the best analyst in the Bureau. All shipments of religious artifacts that entered the city had Pastor Good's name on top of the list of recipients. There's no mistake. My reaction was the same as yours. I can't believe this is happening! This is too perfect to be coincidental! What if it's not, Gina? What if these gold pieces hold a clue? A hidden gem that could ascertain the truth behind this spiritual mystique that you and Mom constantly praise him for having. Can this whole aura thing just be a trivial shroud? Or is he in some weird, whimsical, otherworldly kind of way sending you a message? Either way, you have to meet this man today.
This is so frustrating. I don't remember being so clueless. I was always the cop who thought on her feet, you know, kept it together under pressure. Now, I can't even connect the pieces to a puzzle that blatantly involves the pastor? What's worse is that I can't even begin to fathom how Sylvan is wrapped up in all this.
Sylvan? You saw him last night? He was driving in the Jeep that I chased. That's how I wound up in that pit.
The Jeep crashed through the gate and flipped down the mountainside. I went down to check the crash site and he was the last one breathing. He died right there, in my arms.
My God, I'm so sorry, G. Anything else you remember?
Slashes on his chest. Dried blood on their outfits. They all had the same marks, but I believe it wasn't caused by the crash. Cuts were so precise that it makes me believe that they were attacked beforehand. But by who?
Was he able to back your assumption?
No. All he could say was,
"He's evil. He's the devil."
But he died before he could give me a name.
I'll have my team keep tabs on their bodies. Eventually, they'll be logged into a morgue somewhere. But that'll take some time, though.
Maybe you should keep an eye on the shooters as well, in case we need an interrogation.
Already on it.
Should've known. Meanwhile, I should get going to my appointment and
Gina looked down.
drop off his stolen property. Now you, young lady, should head home and get some sleep. You look tired.
Are you kidding? This is my awake face. Besides, I'm having too much fun to sleep now. Want to drive me to the church? It's going to be a pain in the butt lugging all this gold on your own.
I need the exercise. You should at least get some food in your system to re-energize.
Fine. Meantime, I'll run the place of the shooter's car, nose around, and see what I come up with. Hope you find what you're looking for, Gina. If the pastor comes to visit, knowing you were seconds away from death, then there must be some truth to what Mom is saying.
Thanks, Allie, for everything. I'd still be lost in the desert if not for you.
I love you, G.
The sisters shared a tight hug and wished each other luck with their separate tasks. The tote bags were dragged out from under the table, and Gina felt she was Herculean enough to grab the straps and pick them both up like laundry bags.
Are you crazy?
Alex warned. She then reached down and pulled out handles from the bottom of the bags.
These are carry-ons. See the wheels?
Oh, I see,
said Gina. She grabbed the handles and rolled the bags toward the front door in much delight.
Much easier. Now I could take the bus instead of a cab. Which reminds me, got any change?